Daydreaming today.
Welcome to the Gig Boss Podcast, a show about artistry and industry and music. My name's Adam Meckler, and it's my mission to get you the tools to have a thriving career. And hey, today we're talking about sync licensing. So if you're into sync licensing, if you're interested in finding another way to monetize the original music that you're making, this is a great episode because we talk about ASCAP and BMI. We talk about sync licensing. We talk about how to find publishers in sync licensing. It's really an awesome conversation. I learned some things myself, right? And I'm doing a lot of this stuff myself in my career right now. I'm implementing everything I'm learning on this podcast. My conversation with Josh was super awesome. He goes by xJ-Will on both Instagram and TikTok, and his content has just been blowing up because he creates so much value with what he's making, right? He's giving you tons of information on how to make your music sound more expensive. So like in literal terms, he's teaching you how to get the great sounds from expensive hardware with digital plugins. So if you're an engineer, that will speak to you, but also he's teaching people how to get into sync, how to get connected with publishers, how to frame your music for sync. And we uncover a lot of ground here. We met on a show. I had this band, Nookie Jones, for a while, and we toured down in Kansas City, and we played a show with his band, Shades of Jade. And I remember just being super impressed by Josh in general as a musician. He's an amazing trumpet player. And we talked a little bit about how there's this gap in education where they teach us how to play our instruments, but they don't really teach us how to get paid, right? How to eat, as Josh puts it. So a big part of what Josh learned with Shades of Jade was to go to ASCAP and find other ways to make money if you're making original music in mid to large size venues, right? So we're going to talk about that. I don't want to take up any more of your time because this is such an awesome conversation. I know you're going to dig it. Here's my conversation with Josh Williams, xJ-Will. Kid madness in the morning. So it's like,
oh man,
my wife is like, we gotta go. And I was like, okay, I'll help, you know. and so I made it though. I had to walk. We only have one car. We're one car family now, which is different.
Yeah, it's a little less convenient. Me and my wife, we just we recently bought two cars, and we thought that hers was a dud, and it was actually mine after we fixed a couple things from hers. So I just haven't had time to get around to fixing it. And since I work from home, it's not as big of a deal, but it's really annoying.
Yeah. Are you playing gigs anymore? Are you like playing your horn at all?
Yeah, I play when I feel like it. It's kind of nice. You know what I mean? Like I'll do like wedding bands and stuff like that when I have the spare time. But like mostly now, just because like I can make music at home in my pajamas. That's normally what I'm doing more often. But I always am recording trumpet stuff because of different production things that I do. So like I try to stay in shape because you know how that is.
Yeah, man. It's like if you're not playing. I mean, like it's fine if you're in the studio. It's like you can get away with that, I think, a little bit easier. But yeah, going to play a wedding band gig, you're gonna get crushed.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I try to stay in shape because you never know when that's going to happen.
Yeah. So we met, I don't know, 2014 maybe?
Give or take, yeah. It had to be around 2014.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I saw you playing, I don't remember what band it was. That in Kansas City? Was that in Kansas City?
Yeah. Shades of Jade.
Shades of Jade. That's right.
That was a super fun project. And it was really cool because like, when we had, so I guess backstory for all the listeners, like I think we were just super impressed with the way that Nookie Jones was set up. It was either we saw you at a show or like we just really appreciated the vibes that you guys were performing with, and so. We were trying to trade shows back and forth so that whenever you guys came over here to Kansas City, we had a nice venue for everyone to play at and try to make some quick cash. So it was really cool because you guys were also from the Midwest, which was really hard to find like a legit neo soul R&B group that was doing that kind of stuff. And you guys' originals were great, and that's something that we really prided ourselves on too. So it was just a really cool experience.
Yeah, we enjoyed hearing you guys. I mean, I particularly remember being super into what you were doing and like on the horn. But But yeah, man, like that was pretty early on in the Nookie in the Nookie time. Like in the next few years, we really kind of amped our show up into this like high energy thing. And then COVID hit and Cameron moved to LA, and it was like it kind of became like, I don't know if this is going to keep happening, which is bummer because like I don't have any other bands where I get Facebook messages every day, like, when are you guys going to play again? When are you guys going to release music again? Like all this other shit that I love and I put my heart into. I don't have people messaging me every day. Nookie Jones got like message. It's like,
yeah, like I don't know what it was. It was just like the energy you guys had on stage, and just like the music was awesome. So like that makes a lot of sense to me for sure.
Yeah, it was fun. So are you still? I know you're making a ton of music as a producer. You said you're playing some wedding bands. Are you trying to chase the dream in like a band that's making original music anymore, or are you strictly like you're at home, you're making that money doing sync licensing, and that's kind of where you're focusing all your energy?
For the most part now, I think the reason why was something similar to, I think, most bands, especially the Midwest. What happens is when we get into our like late 20s, everyone starts to get in these pivot positions, as I like to call them. Like either people get married, have kids, or maybe they end up maybe pursuing a wiser career. So like because of all of those kinds of different circumstances, and the bigger the band, the more moving problems you have, right?
Yeah.
So when that happens, like everyone we had to start to figure out if this was going to be viable or not. And unfortunately, we had to kind of end the project. But I think the core group, myself, Desmond, Dominic Sanders, and what's the other guys? Perry Holiday, the drummer, or one of the drummers in the group. We still wanted to create music, so that's how we kind of started leaning towards production.
Cool. And I see Desmond, like, seems like Desmond's crushing it in the gym, man. Like, see him. He's lost a bunch of weight. He's pumping up.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. So
maybe he just needed to get rid of the band so that he could focus on the other stuff.
Yeah, right. So, how much of that work that you do in sync is collaborative? Like, are you mostly doing things by yourself, or are you doing a lot of work with other people? I read somewhere that like, I read somebody's book on sync licensing, and they were like, if you can't play drums, like get a drummer so it sounds authentic. If you can't do whatever, do more collaborative work.
Collaborative work is probably the fastest way to get into sync licensing, because if you work with someone that's already doing it, like the hardest part about getting into sync licensing is getting into sync licensing. After you have a publisher, all you have to do is sit back and make music, and they go shop it for you. Yeah, which is awesome. So like, as I've been in sync since about 2017. So like, as the years went on, and after I went full time around the lockdown, I started to realize that having more musicians in the writing or production process makes the music sound more expensive, which makes it more authentic. And normally I can charge more for that. So I this year, one of my goals is to start working more with artists again. I took some time off from that just because like it wasn't as necessary for me to produce music at scale. But now, especially because I'm finding out like our budgets are larger normally because they're paying for a lyric, I'm starting to branch out to work with artists again for free because we'll just split the upfront fees 50-50.
Right. So the hardest part about getting into sync is getting into sync. So how do you find a publisher?
So like there's a couple different ways that I like to do it personally. You can always go the Google route, but unfortunately Google's full of ads. So you have to kind of sloth through the sludge to try to find the legit ones.
Yeah.
I kind of like the approach of going on LinkedIn and just typing in music library owners and people that work at these companies, because excuse me, that way, like you don't have to run through ads or anything like that. You have the actual contact. You might have their social media. You can follow them there and then actually shoot them a DM. That might actually be easier than shooting a cold email through their website. So those are normally the kinds of techniques I like to use in order to find music publishers. I'm currently signed to like 8 or 9 of them. So I'm always like constantly trying to reach deadlines and
So are any of them exclusive, or is it all like
a lot of them are exclusive. So the way it works is you have there's non-exclusive deals, exclusive deals, and buyouts. Buyouts is where like they basically like the McDonald's theme song, like they purchase and own that music. You cannot monetize off of it anymore.
Right.
Exclusive deals just mean that if I give this music to Adam, I can't give that same song to another publisher.
Right.
They solely represent that until the term of that deal is over with. And then non-exclusive, I can send it to everybody and everybody shops it. Mm-hmm. Exclusive deals normally pay a lot more because you can't get this anywhere else. Like you can find it here. Supply and demand.
Right. So so I recently did a thing with the Youngblood guys, and it was like the NBA theme song was up for a rewrite, and they reached out to us because they wanted like a horn-based hip hop-esque thing, and that's kind of Youngblood's thing. And it's like they came to us, and they and I know that they went and got demos from, I'm sure, lots of, I don't know how many, 5, 6, 7 different people. Is that like, how common is that? How often do you run into an agency going like, we need this type of song, our client wants this and this and this, and we're also asking for demos from all these other people, and then we'll choose from these, 5, 6, 7 demos, rather than going into our library and searching through all the stuff we have in our library?
So custom work happens a lot more often than a lot of people think, just because if I was a company, I would want something that I can be confident that it represents my brand. So when it comes to I think what you're talking about is just briefs in general. When it comes to custom briefs, I do get those quite often. And that's why I like to work with more often than just random placements when people just go through a library and find stuff, just because there's a higher price point. And there's also the fact that I get the film score, which is sometimes really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because like sometimes I'll get to watch trailers before they're aired to the public and stuff. It's really, really cool. And you get to kind of feed even more of the artist side of things as a musician, as far as like, okay, I know this scene is going to be a lot more somber. So like now I can use my harmony and things of like other musician techniques, like with instrumentation, to actually like accentuate that. And that's the cool stuff that I like to do. Yeah,
cool. Are you getting paid to make the demos themselves in those situations? Because it's like we got paid. I think we got paid. Yeah, we got paid for the demo, and then there was like another fee if your thing got chosen.
Yeah, so demo fees are rare, but they are with larger companies. They normally will do that because they're paying you for your time. Like you're making something, and it might not get chosen. So it's way better than like other industries where like you make it and you get the exposure if it works, but if it doesn't, too bad. So that's really, really nice. Normally demo fees can range around, at least the lowest I've seen is about $100, but I've also seen demo fees in 4 figures, which is wild. But like when I say demo, I mean like it's fully mixed and mastered.
Right.
It's just like it's being demonstrated on the picture. So that's what that means.
Right. Cool. I would love to back up a tiny bit and just learn a little bit about your history. I know we jump right into the nitty gritty, and I have a lot more questions related to this stuff. This is stuff that I'm just starting to kind of get into myself, and like I've got a whole bunch of stuff worked out. But like, did you grow up in Kansas City? Did you have musical parents? Like, what was your history like?
So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and at the time, I think it was ranked as like one of the most dangerous cities in the U.S. And so music actually really saved my life. Like I got into playing trumpet at the age of like 11. And it was all just because I heard a brass quintet came to my middle school when I was, or my elementary school when I was younger. And I just got exposed to Star Wars. And so I remember it was a girl that was playing French horn. She played like the Force theme or something. I was like, yo, I want to do that when I grow up.
Yeah.
And when I got old enough to go to band, I wanted to play French horn, and they were like, that's expensive. You're gonna have to play something else. And so I got stuck with trumpet, and I found out that my dad used to play horn when he was in high school in like drum and bugle corps. And so like we're fighting over the instrument and trying to play it, and he's trying to show me stuff. And my middle school teacher pulled my parents to the side after like the semester and was like, get this kid some lessons. Like he actually likes practicing. That's kind of rare. So like you should probably keep that up. And so like over time, I was able and fortunate enough to grab a scholarship at a university in Kansas City that focused on jazz studies. And from there, we got a chance to do some international touring, which was fun. And
who was that with?
We did some with Bobby Watson, and we also did some with Shades of Jade, which was fun.
Cool.
But when I got back, one of the adjunct faculty members invited me to a concert, and I found out later it was a benefit concert because he couldn't pay his health insurance. And so like,
damn,
my whole life flashed before my eyes because I was like, yo, they taught us how to play, which I'm super grateful for. And we learned some business things there, but they really didn't teach us how to eat.
Yeah,
and
man.
So that's actually around the same time I started. We kind of ran into you guys because we were really impressed with the way you guys were playing a lot of originals. And that's how I figured out like publishing is the way like musicians actually are able to afford what they do. And so like, that's when we started, like anytime we'd play live or tour, we're registering our work so that we get paid twice on the back end for performing our own music, which was really good.
Can you break that down just a little bit more, like publishing, getting paid twice? Like let's talk through that a little bit. Like are you using ASCAP BMI? Are you
so I think
mechanical royalties or
so mechanical royalties get paid out through a distributor, right? So like your TuneCore, your CD Baby, or your DistroKid. But what we were getting paid was performance royalties. So whenever you play a song at a live venue, they're actually supposed to pay a fee to ASCAP, BMI, these rights organizations, because they're hosting and performing your music inside their venues. And so when I figured this out, what we would do is we'd play like 80% our own music, and like everyone in the group at first, maybe for the exception of Desmond, we're like, but the covers is what like people like listening to, especially in the Midwest. Yep. And so like, it was a struggle at first. And what happened when we got, so we would play the gig, maybe it was $100, $200 gig. Right. And, afterwards I would log into my BMI account. And I think, like I was saying, BMI was the first to do it, but I think ASCAP came around to do it too. I would just log into my account, and since the songs that we played were already registered, we just type in where we played them and how big the venue was. And every quarter we'd get like another check for like $200, $300 off of like all the collections of places we played. And we were gigging a lot in this season. Man. So like it was crazy because it was almost like free money for us because for writing your own music, which was awesome.
Yeah. So man, I've played so many gigs of my original music. It's insane. Like that's how I've spent the majority of my time performing. And I've played large venues doing that. I've sold out theaters. I have never once gone in and like said what my performances are. I just kind of expected that stuff would just show up, but that's not how it works. You actually have to go in. Mm-hmm. So can I retroactively go through my calendar from the last 10 years? And
I don't know if you can do it for 10, but I think you can like within like a certain time frame, and log in those kinds of things. I know for a fact, like we did see spikes in our revenues and royalties when we were playing larger venues. So like I would definitely look into those.
Yeah. Okay.
That again, you're getting paid twice for doing the same thing. Like you might as well.
Man, I hope people listening are taking notes, man. That's such a huge. And Youngblood has this thing worked out where like if you do the merch table after shows, you get an extra $15 a day while you're on the road, or like if you do, and so like maybe it's something you can work out as a band is like if you're the person who sits down at the computer and logs all the performances, then you get a small percentage of that or something. That's a.
And then like we would just share the because sometimes we would write band or songs collectively as a band, so like we just split everything. It was easier that way. Right. I think that was a cool difference between like growing up playing music as a jazz musician. There's sometimes a connotation where like everybody just does their own thing. But like in bands like the ones that we were in, it was more a collaborative effort. It had a rock band mentality. Like everybody was in it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think it's helpful for like everyone kind of realizing like there's other ways to monetize our music. And that's the biggest takeaway I want everyone to have. Like when I do like my social media and like try to share, like every time you create a piece of music, you've made a wealth building asset. Okay. So like you can monetize, you can exploit it any way you want, because after you're finished making it, it's yours. So being able to do that, whether it be with sync or just when you perform it, like there's anytime your music's played, someone should be getting paid. And it should be you.
So there's a big disconnect in education related to this kind of stuff. You didn't learn any of this stuff in your jazz studies major.
No.
You just figured all this stuff on your own. What are we doing in academia, man? Like I'm sitting in my office at a university. I don't have music majors. Like I work at Michigan Technological University, so I have all, engineering students. I do have some students who major in like audio production, sound design, things like that, the tech side of music, but there aren't any like performance majors, things like that. But man, I just, one of the reasons why I started this podcast was to like learn more about the music industry, learn more about the business side of the music, because this is a huge gap in knowledge. And I feel like I'm better than most people at it. It's like, it's like I figured out a lot of that stuff on my own. But there's obviously still holes that I haven't unlocked, It's
weird, man. Like I wish, and that's something that, so I actually, because I saw that gap as well in academia, I built like my own course to kind of help musicians to get into that kind of stuff, because again, like we learn how to play and there's nothing, I mean, you have to master your craft. That's first and foremost. But also if you actually want to make any type of living off of it, you have to understand that side as well. So like in the course that I have, like we actually structure it that way. So you have to learn the business side first of how you can actually get paid. And then we get into the music, because the music's the easy part. Most people already kind of know how to do that kind of stuff. So, and it's also like when I've talked to sync agents, music libraries, music supervisors, they always have the pet peeve of like most artists don't understand the business side. And when that happens, it becomes a hand-holding situation. And like, because they're on deadlines all the time, like they don't normally, although they would love to do it, like, don't get me wrong, like they
don't have time for that.
They just don't have as much ample time to help.
Yeah, they don't have time for that. Yeah. So what's covered in your course? Things that we're talking about now, and where can people find that?
Yeah, I can send you a link. It's got a weird link because it's set up with one of those sites like Teachable or Kajabi. But like what we go over basically is the business side. So like understanding the different types of deals you would get. We go over a sample agreement. We talk about like how your music can actually be exploited. Most people think like sync licensing is just like commercials, video games, and TV, but you also have like promos, you have trailers, you have educational videos like for employment training or whatever. Like actually one of my homies, he had a placement with a university, and because it was like with Missouri, you have University of Rolla, you have University of Mizzou or whatever, they're all under the same umbrella. Yep. And so because he got a placement with that organization, and it was played in multiple places because it was under the same umbrella, he got paid each time it was used in a different place. Wow. So like that one placement turned into like 5. And I mean, yeah, so there's all kinds of, you have the metaverse, which is still something that's kind of new, but since it's still moving picture, and your music's behind it, technically that's the sync placement too. So there's all kinds of stuff like that. I think at least if you understand, you can kind of you can take more of a laser focused approach as far as like where I think my music would fit best, helping tell a story or sell a product. Mm-hmm. So when you do that, I just think it helps you get to your goals faster. So we do that, and then we go over the pitching process as well. But like we also like analyze some of the songs that I've gotten synced, like with Ford and Apple and things of that nature, so that you can kind of look under the hood, because 9 times out of 10, most of my placements that I've gotten, I've never seen a video for. They were picked because they were arranged a certain way and mixed and mastered a certain way. So like
interesting.
Doing those kinds of things, when I reverse engineer it after my first placement, that's when I kind of got the snowball effect and everything started kind of lining up. Yeah,
cool. So how do you find out where your music fits best before you're able maybe to really cater things to things? Mm-hmm. As a skill level? It's like you're already making music. Maybe you're an artist and you're releasing things on Spotify. Mm-hmm. How do you know where your music fits best? And then how do you kind of pitch that to a publisher or a library?
So, the best thing that you can do first is understand where your strengths are, because like a first date, you want to always put your best foot forward, right? So like, I'm going to make sure that I have stuff that accentuates character traits or physical traits or whatever, right? So after you figure out what you're really, really good at producing first, then all you got to do is sit back, grab a nice glass of Kool-Aid or whatever, and then turn on the TV, because everything that we actually experience is a placement. Someone had to approve it before it went live.
Right.
So what you do is you think of shows that might work for stuff that you do. Like if it's hip hop, you might be able to work on a lot of sports TV shows because of the high energy, right? Or if it's pop music, you might be able to do a lot of TV shows or commercials, because pop music is such a broad term for everything. It works in different venues. Rock and roll. You think of like survival shows, or what's the other one? Those challenge shows where you have to like run through a bunch of different events. So, or Duck Dynasty. You know, there's tons of, like, so all you have to do honestly is just turn on the TV and close your eyes, because a lot of that music is already kind of set to where it needs to be, and you just find out where you fit in. From there, I would then possibly there's two websites I like to use. One of them's more important than the other, but if you're an artist, you can go to, if you want to find out what music's being used on your favorite TV show, you can go to a website called tunefind.com. Okay. From there, they will tell you per episode what music was being played. Sometimes they give you like the music supervisor that was in charge of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is super helpful, because again, the more you know, the faster you can find a home for your music. Because for me, when I first started, it took me 18 months to get my first placement because I didn't know any of this stuff. So I was kind of shooting in the dark.
Wow.
But like from there, you would normally reach out to a sync agent or a music library, because most of us don't know music supervisors. And since they don't know us, and one of their jobs is to make sure that the music's legally clearable. So no splice samples or untreated samples of that nature. I can't just run up to a music supervisor. I don't know. They don't know me from Adam. So like when I come up and I'm like, yo, buy my mixtape, like, bro, I don't know you. Like, what is this? You don't even know what I'm working on. So like, how does this even help me? And they get millions of emails a day. So it's better to go through a trusted source. And that would be a sync rep, like a sync agent or a music library. They have the connections because they know all the music supervisors that they work with. So now all I have to do is make the music after I reach out to them, and they're like, oh yeah, this is work. This is cool. We'll represent you. After I sign a publishing agreement with them, any music I give them, they're pitching out constantly. So now I have a catalog of like 1,000 songs that are being pitched constantly all over the place. And now I've been fortunate enough to start making placements at least once a month, which is really, really cool.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
So that's it in a nutshell. But
so how do you like, do you suggest that people reach out to, you know, maybe once you've had a relationship, and say, I've heard you say this on your Instagram channel, what kind of tracks do you need in your library? So you have an idea of like what to make?
Sometimes you do the research yourself. Like with a lot of catalogs, they actually allow public access. So you can go through the catalog and be like, oh, they're missing a lot of maybe rockabilly music. Maybe that's something I can help with. Hey, so when you type in your email and you express to them, hey, my name is, I really like these placements that you guys have gotten recently. Like, do your homework.
So then you got a little homework done. Yeah, right.
Yeah, because that way you're showing that you actually want to help instead of just copy pasting. Here, check out my music. Check out my music. That never works. They can smell a copy paste email a mile away.
Yeah.
So, I'll do some of that research first and show like, hey, I really want to help you guys. Here's something that might also like cater to your catalog. And when that happens, you have the opportunity of building a relationship that way. And I always tell people, because this is where like stuff gets hard as far as trying to get into a publishing deal, is they get hundreds of emails that might not even deal with music. So like, you have to be patient and you have to be consistent. So if I don't hear back from them within the first 2 weeks, I'll send them a follow-up email. And normally that's when I actually start getting in, or at least get a response back, because again, there's a lot of it's a lot of people and a lot of moving parts.
And this kind of goes back to no copy and pasting, right? This is a more, by following up, it's like a personal thing. And then they know maybe by the second email, they go like, oh, this is a real person emailing me. But you can also show your work ethic that way too. So like you're following up and maybe you even have more new music. Like, hey, I don't know if you like the stuff. I have other stuff as well that might cater to your catalog. It just shows you're really honestly just trying to help another human being. There's a lot of parallels here with booking tours and like trying to book shows at venues. It's the same idea. I've talked about this on the show, like being consistent with follow up. Sometimes it takes, I mean, like when I booked shows in New York, it was like I had to follow up 5 or 6 times before somebody would be like, oh, hey, yeah, I know this person that that name you dropped. And yeah,
people are just busy. So like just being consistent. And I mean, if every 2 weeks, that's the best timeline I've experimented with without wanting to be annoying. Cause that's the last thing I want to do is get on someone's bad side just cause I'm persistent. So like, following up is like the best thing that you could possibly do when you're reaching out to sync reps.
So let's talk about your content creation, because I mean, like from afar, it seems like it's crushing, and I love the way you put your videos together. Is this, how do you plan out the structure of your Instagram videos? How's it going? Getting people attracted to your course through those videos? Are you editing your own videos? Do you have somebody? I think you mentioned like your wife is maybe helping with some of that. So you have like sort of a team that's working on this.
Yeah. So like when I first started doing more content creation, it was during the lockdown. So I had a little extra time to mess with it. But as like I started getting signed to more publishers and started teaching, I just didn't have as much bandwidth for it. So I've shown my wife how to do it, and she's really good now. We go through so I'll record all my content on just my phone, and I'll run it through an AI program called Descript. You ever heard of that before?
Yeah. I've used Descript for the podcast actually, because it'll auto edit stuff.
Code, bro. Yeah, especially for audio. But like with video, it's nice because it'll do jump cuts for me just by editing the text that it transcribes.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, if normally, I like to add GIFs just because like everyone relates to them, and if it can accentuate something I'm saying, it can catch someone's attention. It's just like music, especially in production. I want to try to continue to pull the listener's ear by like throwing something they don't expect. Ear candy. So I do that with GIFs and call it like eye candy, just to like, if something I'm saying, because sometimes it's higher level, like understanding stuff. So if I can simplify it to like where a 5-year-old can understand it, and then also like show other pictures to kind of express that learning or whatever, that learning trigger, it helps tremendously. So anytime I can, she'll add a GIF to try to kind of explain what I'm talking about. And from there,
doing that in Descript?
Yeah. And it's so Descript has some type of deal with Jiffy, I think it is, and you can just highlight the word you want the GIF to show up on, and it just drops it in. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah, cool.
So like from there, I'll just make sure the audio is good, and then post it from there. So it's cool. It's rather simple as far as like figuring out what kind of content. It's great because I read all my comments, and so like I just get a feel for what the audience needs, and I'm just trying to help everybody out, because I mean, like I was saying before, our music's worth more than we normally are led to believe.
Right.
And so if I can help out anybody with this kind of stuff, that's the goal.
And how's it going attracting people to your course doing that kind of content through, like, are you getting a lot of people through your Instagram?
Yeah, totally. Instagram and TikTok are like normally the only ways that I try to advertise, just because like I'm not really trying to scale or do anything. I got placements, so like I'm just trying to help everybody else out. So I'm not really like pushing it too hard. So like you actually, in order to know about the course stuff, you actually would either have to DM me or go through like one of the crash courses I have before it gets to the other stuff. Because on the course we were just mentioning about, like, we actually interview agents and supervisors because their ears are more expensive than mine. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
Since they're making the decision, I can help you with mixing and mastering and like harmony theory and all that kind of stuff. But like they're making the decisions. So like I would want to hear their opinions more than anybody else's.
Right. So I hear you say this, follow me to make your music sound more expensive. And I remember I talked to Graham Barton too, who's another sync guy. He has a thing called Sync Beast, and he said that tracks that sync sound authentic as fuck. So it feels like that's the same nugget. That's like, you want your music to sound really authentic, sound like the stuff that's on the radio. So how do you get your music to sound expensive? And do you have to be a really amazing engineer to make music in sync?
You don't necessarily have to be like God tier level engineering master. What I would say is that the best thing that can help anyone land sync placements is to use references. That's like the cheat code of all cheat codes, because if you're because normally when I get a brief, they have some type of reference, like we need something that sounds like this because we can't afford to actually pay I don't know, Cardi B like $4 million for this song. We got 10%, right, which is still a lot of money. So like when that happens, I use the references as closely as I can. So sometimes I'll change the instrumentation a bit, but like especially nowadays, there's things like tonal balance and things that you can actually mix with your ears and eyes. Because this is a partially treated room now, but like I make everything in my bedroom with headphones or like with my speakers. So I definitely need the visual representation of sound to help me make sure that it's of the highest quality that way as well. So making stuff sound quote unquote expensive just means making it sound human to me. So like sometimes that can be imperfections, other times that's just comparing it to things that are on the top 100 on Billboard. Like it needs to have the same quality so it doesn't sound like they just ripped it off of like a stock website for music. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Imperfections. That's an interesting way of putting it. Human. Yeah.
Human, because we're making everything with a computer, man. Like people still can tell. So like that's something you want to make sure that's not happening. The other thing though that you also have to kind of balance with that is that the right music is more important than the best music. Okay. Yeah. So like if we're helping tell a story with our songs, like if the lyric just hits and is helping the filmmaker do XYZ, they're going to use that regardless if it's mixed and mastered to perfection, because that's not the point. Because that's what most of the music that we make, unless it's being featured, like the actors are singing along or something like that, we're background wallpaper music. So like they're just going to turn it down anyway. And most people, if you think about it, are listening on phone speakers, TV speakers. They're not even high def. So like they can't even tell like the intricacies of what you're doing on the mixing and mastering side. So like I like to think of it as paid practice. Like every time I make a song, I want it to sound better than the last, right? But at the same time, I'm not getting stuck in I have to make this perfect. I need to make it finished. Finish is better than perfect, always.
Finish better than perfect. Man, so it seems like, you reached your pivot point and you went sync. Do you feel like there is room for more people to get into sync? Do you feel like AI is going to take over?
That's interesting. We had this. We did a masterclass on sync yesterday, and somebody asked that same question. Yeah. As far as with AI, no, I don't think AI is going to. I mean, AI has been here for the last 8 years. I don't think most people realize like Ozone's been doing stuff with AI for mastering for like the longest. So AI has been here for a minute, but the interesting and really, really cool thing about it right now, because thanks to Chat GPT, lawyers got onto that real quick because it was giving legal advice. So US copyright as of right now does not deem anything that's generated by a computer as actual intellectual property or art. So that means that you can't sync license something that you don't have license to actually give it. You see what I'm saying? And that's because it's derivative of everything that it takes in. Exactly. So because it's a derivative, everything that it makes is always it's always playing catch up with actual creativity, if that makes sense. Yep. I told it to like make a new style of flow on a hip hop track or something like that. It might be able to create something, but it's based off of everything that it's been fed. So like
Right.
As we stay creative and make new genres, like the indie dark pop that happened with Billie Eilish, that was really, really cool. No one saw that coming because no one thought about it before. So like being creative that way we're always going to stay ahead of the computer, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, Billie Eilish still has shades of like Amy Winehouse and Billie Holiday to me, though. So like, it's interesting to me to think about this. I was just talking about this on the last episode of the podcast, that like everything we make is derivative too. I mean, like we're essentially fed the same way, an AI bot is fed, which is like we take in lots of information, lots of music, and then we spit out stuff that has that information in it. You know what I mean? It's unique to us and it's our voice, but I could see that being used as an argument for companies being able to use AI in the future. It's like it learns the same way we learn. So how is it any different?
The other cool thing is that AI, especially on I use ChatGPT to help with like making emails sometimes.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that AI watermarks all of its generated content. So Google can tell when like you're using it for SEO on a website or whatever. So because of that, like I remember, I think it was last month when everything kind of went crazy with ChatGPT.
Yep.
A lot of people were trying to make YouTube videos based off of just what ChatGPT made, and they were getting flagged as content ID problems. So like,
interesting.
Yeah, they're Google ain't playing with it because they know how like big of a threat that is as far as with their business. So
wow.
I think there's vested interest for everybody to make sure that we keep this under control.
Yeah.
In regards to your question, as far as like, is the market saturated? No, not at all. I like to use this in the course just to give perspective. There's about 1,000 different TV shows in production right now. Okay. So actually, let's do the math on this real quick.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 different TV shows. Well, I'm going to get my calculator here. Okay. So 1,000 TV shows in production, post-production. So they're already like, they're cleared, ready to go. Per episode, you have anywhere between 30 to 200 pieces of music used. Okay.
Wow.
So let's just ballpark it and say like there's 120 different pieces of music in every episode. This is especially for like reality TV shows. That's 120,000 pieces of music just this season. Just this season. And music change again, taste shifts and changes all the time. So they're going to need new music next season. And that's just TV. We're not talking about promos for every episode. We're not talking about the commercials between the episodes. Again, there's video games that come out every year, like, and they need trailers. There's movies, like there's all kinds of stuff everybody can eat. And that's the really, really cool part about it, is that like we're leaving the music industry in a sense and walking into the film industry. So like a lot of the seedy stuff that sometimes can happen, especially with labels and things of that nature, like we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Wow.
So we can kind of focus more on the freedom of just creating instead of like trying to push out a song every month and do the Facebook ad thing. And yeah, it's just, you can't live off of streams alone. So like, this is a great opportunity. I use Sync at first as a side hustle, just because like, if I can make music and it earned me passively, like, yeah, like take this stuff. It's just sitting on a hard drive collecting dust anyway. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So like, it was, when I came under that realization, like, yo, like there's no reason to have a scarcity mindset with Sync, because there's more YouTubers than musicians, believe it or not. So
I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by that. Everybody wants to be a content creator now. Yep. You know, my kids just said, can you set me up with a camera, Dad? I want to make my own YouTube videos. I'm like, damn.
There's a whole generation, I think, right under us that like their first, like, you know how like they ask kids at school, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And maybe in the 60s, everybody wanted to be an astronaut. The 70s, it was maybe a rock star or whatever, right? The generation right under us, everybody wanted to be a YouTuber when that question was asked. So like everybody has a phone versus everybody understands how to create music. So like because of that, there's a high supply and demand shift that's happening right now.
Wow, man, that's really fascinating. It really makes me want to get deeper into Sync, man. I've got a huge catalog of original music that I've recorded, and I'm just like trying to figure out how to. I have a publisher I work with in Chicago that has placed a couple of my things, and they're just like big band stuff. You know, it's like they wanted jazz, and I was like, I've got all this big band music here, take it all.
It's so hard to produce on a computer, so like you could really niche that and kind of own that space.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Well, dude, this was so great, man. We're gonna link your Instagram channel. I actually haven't seen your TikTok, but you mentioned TikTok, so I'll find that and link it. And we'll link your course. So send me a link to your course. Obviously, Josh is crushing it and has some great advice and words and wisdom related to sync. Check out Josh's course. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Bro, it was my pleasure. We needed to catch up anyway. This was really, really cool. And anybody, if you have any other questions, just reach out. Shoot me a DM.
Woo! We did it!
Yay!
Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Josh. If you want to get into sync licensing and you want a guide to help you, Josh has an awesome course. The link is in the description. When you purchase using the link in the description, it also helps Gig Boss. So click that link if you're going to work with Josh. You can certainly take one of his crash courses first to kind of get a taste of working with him. But I think this episode probably gave you a good look into his knowledge surrounding sync licensing. So get with Josh, get with that program. If you haven't checked it out yet, the Gig Boss app is free on iOS and Android. It's a way for you to manage your busy freelance and band leader careers. We've got photographers using it as well. We've got a lot of people using the app, and we're really excited. We're raising money right now to build out some more features, so stick with us, check it out, download it. That helps us as well. Lots more links in the description if you want to find out more ways to get involved. Oh, and if you really love the show, please give us a 5-star rating, like the show, follow the show wherever you're listening. We do have a YouTube page, so you can follow us there, subscribe to that channel, but give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. Write a little review that says, like, I really like this show. Adam's obviously trying really hard to learn stuff, and I'm learning stuff too. Whatever you can do to get people to check out the show, that's going to help us grow, and that's going to help us continue to get great guests for you. So, thank you.